Hey everybody, my name is Anthony DiLorenzo, and this is my self-assessment. I did the Gallup test that we all did, the Strengths Finder, the LBDQ, the LPC, and the Myers-Briggs. And I found that the most common characteristics were relational, ideation, and purpose. Those are the ones that kind of kept surfacing. The relational leadership scores that I found, the LPC had a score of 76, which identified as relationship-oriented leader. The LBDC, the highest scores were role assumption, consideration, and toleration of freedom. And then the Strengths Finder was a relator. These assessments stated that a relator or relationship leader or relational leader was honest and open. They used praise sparingly. There were people that staff and other people would come to for advice and counseling. And they valued people who were goal-oriented. The INFJ was my outcome for the Myers-Briggs, which stated skills of empathy, responsiveness, and being able to inspire. One study I found said that leadership is seen as a mutual and democratic process through the relational leadership model. And leadership is welcoming of feedback through this perspective versus just the hierarchical perspective. And it's very much strengths focused. Having a relational style of leadership can lead to some challenges. The challenging workers that I have found that have been a challenge to work with, especially with my more relational approach, are those who are inauthentic, dishonest, inconsistent, not very trustworthy, and closed to feedback. As a relational leader, I feel like it's being able to give feedback is important just as it is to be able to receive feedback. The applications for this relationship based leadership is it's definitely heavily focused on the strengths focused therapy. If you're familiar with Love and Logic, which is very much about like support, but as well as setting firm limits. It's very supportive with the attachment theory, because attachment theory, we're trying to rebuild and reteach how to build relationships. The therapeutic alliance, as seen from the clinical perspective, as well as the manager perspective, when we're supervising, it's more of that working with someone to improve skills, whether it's a client or if it's a staff. And then the therapeutic crisis intervention is one that I've used often. That has it's very heavily founded in relationship, and that you're not really going to be effective with clients unless you have that relationship style. The next is the ideation style. This is the love for ideas, for creativity and innovation. I've noticed this in myself a lot. I found this one to be actually very accurate because I struggle a lot with feeling trapped in routines. I like kind of the spontaneity of doing things. I like to stay up sometimes and work on stuff, or sometimes wake up early, but it's hard for me to get into that routine and that habit. High self-awareness of others' perspectives. I hope this is true. Motivated to impress others and win their regards. I found that also to be somewhat true, and one of the kind of the challenges of the ideation characteristic. Challenging workers, people to work with, are those who are unmotivated and apathetic. They're dispassionate, closed-minded, inflexible, ignorant, and unstructured. Applications include, again, strengths-focused therapy, and then also the development of treatment plans. It takes a lot of times it takes creative problem solving, which over there you see problem solving as well, to develop treatment plans that are going to be successful. The same goes for program development, which is actually my favorite thing to do so far in this field. Using creative solutions towards current problems. Also, mission growth, because that's very heavily influenced on your ideations, and also policy development, because I feel like creative policies are what is needed to resolve some of the more challenging issues that we have. Next, I was not at all surprised to see that my assessments, like a common theme, was purpose and value driven, because that has kind of been one of my values. And things that I found that motivates people is working for something that's greater than yourself. The Gallup Strengths Finder found this quality as belief, which is success as beyond money and prestige. They found that characteristics of these people were highly ethical, altruistic, family-oriented, and trustworthy. Consistent priorities as a basis for all relationships. There was the belief that everyone and everything is connected, and definitely a need for meaningful work. Purpose was found to be a significant, stronger motivator than financial incentives. And successful organizations, this is Simon Sinek, we watched a video on him, successful organizations strive towards a shared purpose. The MBTI score of INFJ had a heavy emphasis on value-driven. With this quality of purpose and value-driven, I think the challenging workers would be those who are unethical, who are complacent, who may have conflicting values, or at least don't understand your values, even if they are not entirely the same, and then motivated by extrinsic factors like finances, money. Applications in the field of social work for values are definitely in systems theory, that kind of understanding and perspective that of something bigger than just the one client, the whole system as a whole. Also, I added mindfulness-based stress reduction and mindfulness-based cognitive therapy because it's much more about being present and focused on kind of like the bigger picture of everything and what's going on in the present moment. Also, a treatment plan development, program development, and agency value development, and again, back to policy development. Now, when looking at the strengths and challenging of each, with relational, the strengths, kind of what we already stated, was honest and trustworthy, open. These people are also approachable. They have very strong, close relationships. It kind of takes longer to build those relationships, but they're close, stronger, close ones. And intimacy, wanting to understand others' feelings, fears, goals, and dreams. And also, when you do build those relationships, they're very genuine relationships. Some of the challenges are that I've experienced, at least, with being very relational, and that I had to improve on as I fell more into my supervisor role, was holding staff accountable. A lot of times you can be almost like too empathetic and more relational, and realizing, oh wait, they still have a job that needs to get done. And that goes with setting firm expectations. Also struggling with building relationships quickly. With the relational characteristic, it's more about those long-term intimate relationships than it is about the shorter term, I guess, surface level relationships. And then also the need for direct conversations. And as I had said, too empathetic, difficulty making challenging decisions, like sometimes letting people go when you have a ton of empathy for their current situation. So that's a skill that needs development, I think, when you have that relational perspective. And with ideation, the positives and strengths are solution-focused, love for ideas, constantly innovating, and creative problem solving. Some of the challenges can be a lack of focus and a lack of structure. With that, I would need to work kind of more in an agency that has a lot more structure and kind of keeps me in line, so I can be very creative, but they support me by making sure it's realistic and that sort of thing. And with purpose and value-driven, the strengths are consistent priorities, a focused mission, belief in humanity as a whole, and very passionate. Some of these challenges is that passion may lead to being reactive. If you're so focused on your mission, you might forget about certain variables that need attention in order to meet that mission. Also, conflict with those who do not entirely understand your values. And that is the self-assessment, my self-assessment. I really didn't find a whole lot from the LBDQ and the LPC assessments. I didn't feel like I gained a ton of insight on those. However, I feel like the StrengthsFinder 2.0 and the MBTI were actually pretty accurate for the most part. The MBTI, I was actually in between the INFJ and the INTJ. Where it was kind of between those feelings and thoughts. I kind of fluctuate, I think, depending on when I take it. I took it a few times at different times of the day, and I kind of bounced back and forth between those two. Anyways, very interesting, and I look forward to speaking with you all this week. Thank you.